On a manicured estate in Long Island, Millie arrived for a job interview that felt like her last tether to a normal life. The mistress of the house, Nina, flipped through Millie's resume with an air of distracted elegance. She noted that Millie, with her college degree, seemed overqualified to be a common housemaid, but the requirements were steep: cooking, cleaning, childrearing, and living on site. During the tour, Nina leaned in close, whispering a secret: she was pregnant, and Millie was the only one who knew. As Millie drove away, she clutched the gas money Nina had gifted her, convinced the call would never come. Every word on her resume was a fabrication. Even her glasses were a prop. At night, Millie retreated to the cramped back seat of her car, her only home, scrubbing herself clean in the sinks of gas station bathrooms. When the police eventually found her sleeping in her vehicle, she spun a desperate lie about a sick mother, only to be interrupted by a life-changing ring. Nina was hiring her. Returning to the estate, Millie met Enzo, the groundskeeper whose watchful eyes seemed to see too much. Inside, the house was a disaster: rooms trashed, furniture overturned. Nina, appearing frazzled, claimed she was overwhelmed by a PDA speech and set Millie to work immediately. By evening, the house was restored to a porcelain perfection. When Nina's husband, Andrew, arrived with their daughter Cece, he was visibly baffled by Millie's presence, yet he offered a warm, welcoming smile that made Millie's heart skip. Millie's sanctuary was an attic room that felt more like a cell. The door lacked a key, and the solitary window was painted shut. When she pleaded for a way to let in fresh air, Nina promised the handyman would see to it, explaining the room was merely Andrew's old file storage. To welcome her, Nina handed Millie a new phone linked to the family credit card. The next morning, however, Millie woke to find her door stuck. She had to throw her weight against it just to escape. The domestic peace was short-lived. Millie was jolted awake by the sound of glass shattering. She found Nina in the kitchen, a whirlwind of rage, screaming about missing speech notes. Nina accused Millie of theft before collapsing into a breakdown. Andrew, ever the stoic protector, gathered his wife in his arms and sent her to the shower. Later, he apologized to Millie, whispering that Nina hadn't been herself lately. From the garden, Enzo watched the exchange with a grimace. When Millie took out the trash, he tried to warn her, but the sight of Nina watching from a window sent him scurrying back to the shadows. Tensions mounted. Millie found a strange sedative pellet in the toilet. Cece treated her with open, chilling hostility, and Nina's mood swung like a pendulum. In the quiet hours, Millie found herself spiraling into an obsession with Andrew, fueled by his kindness and his handsome social media profile. One night, a dream of him kissing her felt so real she woke up gasping. On her day off, the facade of Millie's life was revealed. She reported to a parole officer, the weight of a 10-year prison sentence hanging over her. She had 5 years left on her term. If she lost this job, she went back to a cell. The pressure became a vice. Nina began sabotaging her, sending her on errands with no addresses and gaslighting her about playdates, making Millie look incompetent in front of the local elite. One evening, Andrew's mother, Evelyn, visited, treating Millie with a coldness that bordered on cruelty. After she left, Millie and Andrew shared a quiet moment on the couch. He spoke of Nina's tragic past, a house fire that killed her parents, a crime the police once suspected Nina of committing. When Nina interrupted them, she fired Millie on the spot for seducing her husband. Millie begged, landing a 1-week reprieve on the condition she stay away from Andrew. The house became a theater of secrets. Millie overheard the neighborhood gossips mentioning Nina's 9-month stint in a psych ward and a prenuptial agreement that left her with nothing. Shifting her loyalty, Millie began to see Andrew as a fellow victim. But when she searched the house, she found Nina's medication. It was for psychosis. The horror escalated. One night, screams echoed through the halls. Millie found Nina holding a blood-stained mirror shard, laughing manically. The next day, Nina did a complete about-face, gifting Millie clothes and asking her to book a romantic night out for her and Andrew. But the local nannies whispered a different story. Nina was institutionalized because she had tried to drown Cece. Caught in a web of conflicting lies, Millie found herself at a theater and then a hotel with Andrew, after a mistake with the tickets Nina had ordered. In the dim light of a hotel room, their mutual attraction finally boiled over. They returned home as lovers, only for Nina to drop a bombshell. She knew about the affair, and she knew about Millie's prison record. The climax was a blur of violence and betrayal. Andrew, seemingly choosing Millie, threw Nina out. But as soon as Nina was gone, the mask fell. After Millie made the mistake of breaking his mother's china, Andrew dragged her to the attic. He locked the door, coldness replacing his warmth. He revealed the attic's true purpose: it was a torture chamber where he broke women's spirits. While Millie sat trapped, the narrative shifted. In a hotel room, fleeing Nina laughed. It had all been a setup. Nina had never been crazy, she had been Andrew's prisoner for years. She had dyed her hair, pulled out her own hair on his command, and been framed for the attempted murder of her own daughter. She had hired Millie, a convicted murderer, specifically to be the weapon that would kill her husband. In the attic, Andrew demanded Millie mutilate herself as penance for the broken china. But Millie was no ordinary victim. She remembered the day she had killed a man to protect her roommate. She found a cheese knife Nina had hidden for her. When Andrew opened the door the next morning, expecting a broken woman, he found a predator. A brutal struggle ensued throughout the house. Nina returned, not to flee, but to finish the job. Together, the two women, the wife and the housemaid, confronted the monster. Millie threw Andrew over the railing, his body breaking on the marble floor below. As the police arrived, a sympathetic officer, whose own sister had been destroyed by Andrew, looked the other way, ruling the death an accident. Nina, now a wealthy widow, handed Millie a check and a recommendation. Weeks later, Millie walked into another mansion for another interview. As the new mistress hinted at her own husband's temper, Millie straightened her fake glasses and smiled.